if only Josh Archibald had finished that shot last night, the beginning of this episode would be a lot different. But guys, we're back. How are you both?
Are you saying?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Are you saying he's gonna finish what he started?
I don't know what you're
Are
talking
you making
about.
a reference?
I think so. Am I allowed to?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
I'm so confused.
I'm not talking about Josh Archibald.
We're talking about Josh Archibald a little later when we talk about the Leafs and the Oilers cap off their series. McDavid was pretty good as always. We're going to talk about the Leafs then we're going to talk about Montreal and Calgary wrapping up their 2 games. Jacob Markstrom being a big part of the Flames getting 2 points last night. But we have to start the breaking news. And there's one thing we never miss on the show. It's waiver transactions. And we got a big one
We love
today.
that stuff.
It's because that's when we record.
Yeah, exactly. It's like literally 30 minutes after the waiver wire breaks. But biggest news of the day, maybe of the week, honestly. Anthony DeAngelo has been put on waivers by the New York Rangers, just signed a 2-year extension. Being reported that apparently that the Rangers have been trying to trade him. No one wanted him, and they just signed the deal, I guess, to sort of make it more attractive. But, I mean, we gave the Rangers a lot of crap a few episodes ago after the whole parlor stuff. Looks like they were trying to get rid of him the whole time. And I will say, I apologize to the Rangers because it turns out you were trying to get rid of this guy. But it's still a little shocking nonetheless, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, it's definitely shocking. I feel like there's definitely something that's not out there yet. That maybe we don't necessarily know what's going on behind the scenes, because like it's not like this is the first time that he's done something that a lot of people have seen as controversial.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a feeling there's more to this story than just what happened a couple weeks ago or last week.
Mm-hmm. Daniel.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised that, the Rangers, good on them to finally, make the most of what they kind of said. Because when we first saw the tweets, they were saying like, oh, we don't agree with this, that, we're going to go talk to him. It just seemed like another kind of, putting the blanket over it of like the NHL saying that we're going to deal with this, but they didn't actually do something, but they actually did something with this. And like Alex said, like, we don't know to what extent what other things were coming out, what was kind of going on in the locker room, what was going on with them discussing like, how is this guy going to fit now? But I think it's just huge because the one example I used last time was Brendan Lepsick, who like in all time services, he's like a fringe NHLer that, he had his contract bought out. He was off the team, but we're talking about $700,000 for like a depth guy. And for something to happen to someone who was arguably one of their best defensemen last year, who was getting Norris considerations, to be put on waivers like this is still surprising to me. I'm still trying to kind of think like, wow, that actually did happen.
He has the talent level offensively to be a top 4 defenseman, no questions asked. But there seems to be a mix of, yes, maybe off the ice crap, they're maybe getting sick of it, but maybe they could have it's like you ignore what differences you may have in the locker room as long as you're winning. And the 2 highlights I've seen Tony DeAngelo of like the last 2 things that have been significant enough to like get into my Twitter timeline was going back to the bubble when Sebastian Aho completely blew past him. And then when Matt Barzal did the same thing opening the season for the Rangers. It didn't take very long for him to get scratched either. So I wonder if he does get claimed. If anyone takes that sort of flyer, and why it's going to be Arizona.
That's what I was going to say.
Just going back. Oh, can I just mention one thing about that on both sides of that this trade that we had at the 2017 draft?
Yes.
Terrible asset management from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
That was like considered, the blockbuster, but now looking at what every return what it kind of panned out to be for any team. You know, and Tirana, I understand the injuries, but it's just surprising that you really have not a lot to kind of show for it anymore.
Story of most trades that Arizona pull off. What did they really get out of Max Domi? What happened to Alex Galchenyuk? A lot of stuff like that. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens with D'Angelo. Apparently, the Rangers have a plan, or it seems to be that they're gonna have a plan. Whether he clears, whether he doesn't, I'm sure they're hoping that he does get claimed, because it's not like their cap situation anyway is sort of fantastic at the moment.
No.
And the fact they have to bury a guy they just signed 2 years is a bit of a question.
And if they try to buy him out, I mean, which I guess they could, it would be like this year alone, they already have $13 million in buyout.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah.
They have a Connor McDavid plus a little bit
Yeah.
in buyout money.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah. Gordon's done a great job in New York, but I mean, they haven't been afraid to use the buyout. And man, maybe they could use some of that cap to get a real left side defensively.
Are they still paying Dan Girardi?
Yep. 3 more years, 1.1 million.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty bad.
He last
That's
played
very
what,
bad.
2 years ago for the Lightning?
Feels like forever ago. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Congratulations, by the way, to Alexis Lafreniere for getting his first career goal, OT winner for the Rangers. I believe it was over Buffalo, which is great.
You know what made me laugh when they were comparing it?
What?
They had his picture beside Jack Hughes comparing the number one picks, and Jack Hughes looks like a 13-year-old beside Alexis Lafreniere.
He's been good too, eh?
Yeah. Leading the team in points.
Good. That's really.
Are the Devils making the playoffs?
No.
Or
No.
Anaheim?
No.
Yes.
Brutal loss last night to the St. Louis
I
Blues.
know, but
That's a 4-point game.
if you recall in the Mighty Ducks movie, they lost to the Hawks by a bit of like the same score, and they still managed to win, you know, the POE tournament. So, you know, I'm still holding out hope. It's early in the season.
Did Gibson play last night?
Yeah, so there's Eric Stevens from The Athletic actually wrote something about it where John Gibson let in 3 goals in less than 3 minutes, and he just went to the bench. Dallas Eakins didn't pull him. He went to the bench, and they're saying like it's a clear showing of his frustration with the team because like he didn't even do like, you know, the props to Ryan Miller when he came onto the ice. It's just he just went to the bench.
I would be frustrated too.
It's not like this is. We've heard this story with John Gibson and this team to start every year for the past couple.
Was the owner sitting behind the bench?
No, unfortunately, he stayed on the bench. He didn't go to the back. He
didn't say this was my last game.
No, he didn't. But you know, I think this is a karma thing for me. I don't really believe too much in that karma thing, but I think this is the St. Louis Blues must have listened to us.
Why is that?
Because they torched the Ducks last night.
They listen to you, sir.
Yes.
To you.
Well, we're a brand together. If one of us says one thing, the 3 of us said it.
I don't know about that.
Definitely not true.
My blood was boiling that you didn't have St. Louis making it. I'll give you credit for Minnesota though.
Thank you.
Because their young
That's
guys are really, really turning it on. Too bad one of them, in Marco Rossi, will not play this year. Seems to be has an upper body injury that seems to be related to getting COVID-19. He will be back in Minnesota apparently in March. I'm going to get that tweet up right now. I'm going to say it was from Russo, but at the same time, put my phone on silent while I'm there. God damn
I believe it was from Russo. I think you're right.
It was from Russo? The most trusted man in hockey is Michael Russo, honestly. Not Justin from Wizards of Waverly Place.
Oh, sorry. I have just something before we go on.
Yeah.
Doesn't Justin Russo look like Jake Allen?
Kind of. The faces are a bit warped, but the hairstyle, that is a very good point.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe the hair.
Yeah.
Not the eyes.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Jake Allen, by the way, was really, really good last night. He's been fantastic for Montreal. Really, really good signing. Montreal using their cap space, addressing needs, and people still aren't giving them credit. Hello, Adam Wild, you bastard. You guys talked about this last episode when I unfortunately couldn't make it. But with Jim Rutherford now being gone, we're starting to hear stuff leak out, rumors potentially. Apparently, there was going to be a deal involving the Pittsburgh Penguins and a defenseman from the North Division going the other way. Now, this opens a lot of sort of questions because there's been stuff of like the Penguins have an idea of they still want to win as long as they have Sid, but the approach to take here. And what's interesting about looking at a trade with a Northern Division and a defenseman is right off the bat, we think of two defensemen that look to be on their way out in respective teams. That's Travis Dermott for the Toronto Maple Leafs and Victor Mete, who definitely has demanded the trade from Montreal. Cheeky bastard. Unless I'm over, if I'm missing a sort of detail there. But I wonder, because Yannick Weber was obviously signed by Jim Rutherford like the day he resigned too. So there was the need there. But I'm just wondering, because apparently Chris Letang was not involved, which could you imagine if he was? That would have been great. Like, give me the trades, Jim. I'm going to miss him, by the way, because he gave us talking points. But just your guys' kind of thoughts, like what could this have been? Like, what is going on in Pittsburgh?
So the more I think about it, the less I'm inclined to say Dermott, because I was just digging around about the whole Dermott thing because I know it's been talked about. No one I've really read has said anything of significance about Dermott being traded. So I feel like maybe that's kind of off the table. Like it's a possibility if they're getting something back. But I think for me, the most likely candidate for that would be Victor Mete. Like I know Bergevin last night denied the trade, denied the rumors, but like, listen, I mean, you even tweeted it out last night. This has happened before. And I know Mete isn't PK or who was the other one? Galchenyuk. But you have to think that if Ferris confirmed he asked for the trade, like Ferris overdoes things, but I don't think he seems like the type of guy to go out of his way to lie about it like that.
What Bergevin apparently said was not true, and not trading him was the text message he was sending out last night. Which of course, he's not going to. I don't expect Mark Bergevin to say it. What also kind of gives credence to the thinking of maybe that is Toronto or Montreal. We didn't hear about it, and they are two teams that don't let stuff get out. I was thinking, and you make a very good point with Toronto there, but if you look for connections, you can obviously see that the Leafs and the Penguins have not been afraid to make big deals over the past few years.
No.
Though, I mean, it's not a coincidence that at the same time, this came out, by the way, last night about Victor Mete, and we'll talk about Bennett in a second here. Two Darren Ferris clients, Hockey Night in Canada, around headlines. Victor Mete didn't get into that segment, but he was afterwards. But I wonder now if there is a sort of connection, because obviously if you're making trades, it's probably the best if you're in the North Division to do it in the North Division.
Yeah.
Because Sam Bennett has been a player that has been linked to Montreal for a couple of years. And I wonder if there's some sort of, we're going to swap her. Because don't forget, Montreal did just trade a Darren Ferris client for a Darren Ferris client in Domi for Anderson.
Right.
So I wonder if there's some sort of swap here. Maybe you see that Froley can't get in the lineup and like Armia might not get his spot because Perry's been playing so well. I wonder if there's some sort of, if this thing with Pittsburgh has fallen through, as we can clearly see it has, if maybe there's a swap with those two Canadian teams. Your guys' thoughts on that?
Daniel, why don't you go first?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing before we get to the Calgary part is about the, sorry, I'm just looking at your cup, what you're using.
It's a beaker and I'm drinking.
Yeah. If you want to see the beaker, check out the YouTube. But what I'm going to talk about with that is I think that there's a bit of an expectation now with Travis Dermott wanting to kind of push into it. So I think maybe there'd be a trade situation there because I think the two different approaches is Victor Mete, when you drafted him, you know what you kind of got already later in that round. You know what he kind of brought to it. He's not the most offensive guy. He's solid defensively, and that's what you got. I think with Travis Dermott, there was a bit more of that pressure of, we kind of did a bit of that maneuvering at the draft. Let's try to mold this guy into a top 4 guy. And then the second phase of that is, okay, let's try to play him on the right side.
That's a very good point. I can't remember who it was, but somebody said that the Leafs they didn't want to use the word manipulate, but they had really gone around to draft Dermott, second round guy, and Victor Mete, I believe, was 200th overall.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was a lot of talk was with Dermott. And yeah, we'll just keep talking defenseman here. Why not? Alex, was that like the talk about him playing on the right side? I feel like every episode we were talking about it.
Yeah, we were, but I feel like now we're at a point where it's not really necessary because you have Brody, right?
Player.
Brody's been like of the new additions, I'd argue he's been the most impressive, just with the exception of that one Ottawa game. And then you have Justin Hall, who's been absolutely fantastic, and then you have Zach Bogosian. Like, okay, your expectations for a third pairing defenseman really aren't that high, but I think he's meeting them. So they're really, especially this year, I don't necessarily think there's a need for him to play on the right side. I think going into this year, we had the expectation that, Zach Bogosian was really going to be our 7th defenseman. We needed Lettinen to play on the left. And so Dermott would play on the right. But I think we've entered a different situation.
Any note you guys want to throw out there? Mete, Dermott, we can talk about Sam Bennett, open discussion here.
Yeah, just about Sam Bennett quickly. In my opinion, I don't necessarily see a swap between him and Mete, because the thing with Bennett, why would he want to trade out of Calgary? Would it be the minutes?
It feels like there's been rumors about him forever. I feel like it's that concern about he's Joe Ward. He's different in the playoffs, and I wonder if it's more Calgary or just maybe he's just sick of if there's just a bad relationship there. Maybe just I need to change the scenery. I don't know. It's very strange, but it's been out there for a while, it feels like.
Yeah, and listen, if it's the minutes necessarily, I don't think going to Montreal is going to fix that, because I think the way Montreal's working right now is working so well for them that switching Mete for Bennett, I think in theory would be a good move for both sides. Like if you asked me last year, hey, we have Romanov coming, we'll swap Bennett and Mete, I don't necessarily see that as the worst move. But considering their situation now and considering Bennett isn't really what would you say Bennett would automatically make the lineup if he joined your team right now?
This very second, no, he wouldn't. No,
he'd be pushed onto the third or something. Find something for him there.
I think, yeah, if that's the case, I don't necessarily think this is the right move for Montreal. I think for Victor Mete going to Calgary, he'll probably get at least some playing time. But in Bennett's case, it's not necessarily the best move.
Daniel,
in my opinion, I kind of think that the way Calgary would want to view this is, and this could be completely wrong, but it's cutting their losses in a way, because I think the speculation's really been there when a lot of reporters have mentioned, keep in mind, Sam Bennett went 4th overall, and it's been Calgary that's kind of worked with him extensively to try to see, okay, what role can you really play for this team? And he has carved out a role, but it's not something you really kind of want in the modern era of getting a guy in the top 5. And the way I think Calgary sees this now is that maybe what he kind of brings to the team now is a bit more of a luxury, and it's something that they could leverage to get something in return. And it makes sense on paper that Victor Mete fits a bit of that need. It's just, yeah, I think what Alex said, it works on Calgary's side, but I just don't what I view with Montreal is don't fix what's not broken. I just really see what you got, because worst comes to worst, if some of the depth is depleted here and there, they have signed enough guys that they're all pros, they're all veterans, that they could just slot in there right away. And again, what we said about Jake Allen, you don't have that Carey Price worry anymore of, are we playing him too much?
Exactly. Price not starting on a Saturday night. I can't remember the last time that happened while he was healthy, by the way. It almost felt like a sin, but you're like, oh, we have two good goalies. What is this? It was so weird. Mr. Saturday Night, John Bartlett had the call. I was ready. It's rough game. We'll get to it later, though. Here's a weird story. Travis Konecny, one of the Flyers' best players, really emerged over this in the last year, I'd say. Scoring right up there. Gets scratched last night. Apparently, it was made very clear, don't bother calling us about him. He's not going to get moved. I feel like I'm missing something here. What was the point of it? I haven't seen anything about it. I haven't heard any issues. I haven't seen any terrible shifts when he didn't bother to fight a Tampa Bay Lightning player at a battle. No reference to Pierre-Luc Dubois at all. Somebody explain. Alex, you like Alain Vigneault. What's the decision here? I'm so confused.
No, I don't necessarily think this was the right move. And I saw a lot of people criticizing it too. My understanding is that, his last few games necessarily haven't been the best. And Vigneault's trying to prove a point. And it was a very similar discussion that was had here 4 or 5 years ago. It was a similar discussion that was being had in Winnipeg with Laine a couple of years ago, proving a point. And I know obviously Konecny's on his second contract, but I guess it's holding players accountable. Obviously, in Toronto's case, that very short period of time where Mitch Marner played on the fourth line and made Matt Martin look like an absolute genius. And then the whole point of in Winnipeg's case, moving Laine around, obviously, because at that time his two-way game really was, it was awful. Like, it was not good, right? So proving a point. Was this the best thing to do? I don't know, because he's such an impactful player. It's such a weird case, because when you're a bottom six guy, you're a bottom pairing guy. If you're not playing well, you're out of the lineup. But how do you do the same with a guy in a higher class than these guys we're talking about? Is it just demoting them, or is it scratching them? And in this case, I guess Vigneault picked scratching them. I don't know if I would do the same.
Daniel, I'm going to ask you this, because we have a right winger here, right-handed, God love him, first round pick. Right now is playing better than he ever did in the World Juniors, those 5 games, 1 point in 2016. I got his Hockey DB page up here, because you got to explain to people, if you're a very casual hockey fan and you look up Travis Konecny, how do you explain scratching a guy who in 8 games, 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points, not a single penalty minute, and is a +5? I mean, plus minus, but you know what I mean, right? Like, how do you justify that?
Yeah, it's funny, when I was reading Alain Vigneault's comments on this, it sounded like a rejected job application to me, where it's like he talked about all the great things.
Go through with your application.
Like, it's like you'll list the good things that he's really doing, like the offensive production, that he's been responsible, and then but the however part
that's when
is about his 5-on-5 game, that Alain Vigneault didn't see something he didn't like, and that it's been going on for a few games. So it's like, we're gonna try to see what we can do with the practice lines we had. And yeah, it was weird to me, because this is such an odd time when I think about Sean Couturier on the IR still, that you're not Philly has depth, but you don't have that superstar power on your offensive lines that you could kind of roll out every night, that you can say that I could take out a Travis Konecny.
Whatever happened to Giroux and Voracek, by the way? Like, you ever think about that? Like, just what happened to them when they were, like, what happened to the Giroux when people were like, Crosby's got to pass the tour, like that dumb stuff. But
the World Cup of Hockey, remember that? He actually, no, not the World Cup, the Olympics. You remember that?
No.
He was on the initial squad for the Olympics, and then at the last minute they replaced him with Jeff Carter.
Oh.
Because they just said, we had him on all our list all year, and then something about we needed someone to also like bring in grit, and then people compared it to like the 1992 Olympics where Isaiah Thomas didn't make the team because he had like a feud with Michael Jordan.
Didn't want to mess with the chemistry, man. They didn't shake hands back then. That wasn't how it worked. You know how many goals Konecny scored last year, guys?
It was over 30. It must have been almost 40.
It was 24.
Okay.
You know how many he
It's not
scored the year
close.
before?
That would have been his contract year.
27.
30.
24.
Oh
You want to
my
know
god.
how much he scored in his second year?
24.
24 goals. You know how many he scored in his rookie year?
24.
11.
Okay.
I just thought that was
point of
really
the season.
Had to end eventually.
In the midway point season, he's gonna have 24. He's just gonna stop.
But last year he had 60, 61 and 66 games, 24. So he would have broken 30, but he's good. He went to
like
the
him.
All-Star game, didn't he?
Did he?
Am I thinking of Konecny? I swear, I think he did.
You know, when I think of All-Star games now, I don't know why. It kind of gives me a bit of anxiety because I know that like they're not naming them like, you know, the traditional way, but just to think of like, you know, those events, crowds for a weekend. That's a lot.
He did go, by the way.
He did go. Okay, excellent. All right, where are we now?
Everywhere.
We got to. I just smacked my mic and I dropped my pen. God damn it. Okay, we got to see a few retro reverse jerseys last night. Okay, and I'm gonna say this: the Oilers jersey, I didn't like it. Okay, after seeing it on the ice, I like it. I thought it was really nice. I thought it was a really nice jersey. On the other hand, the Leafs one does not look good in a game.
No.
The picture didn't look good. The picture of
No.
someone wearing it over FaceTime was like, all right, that's not bad. But in a game, it's not great.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. I couldn't agree more with that. The thing with Edmonton is I found that it was glistening too much. And you know what they say about glistening?
If you're glistening,
No one's listening. Right? Shout out Dr. Gary Gould. Absolute legend. But the Leafs one, oh my God. Oh, it was not nice. Like it was so difficult to tell who was who when they're skating. Like when they slowed down, I'm like, okay, that's Nylander, that's Matthews. I could not figure out who it was. Like I had to tell by the hair. Like that's how I was figuring things out. And it's like half of them have like you really couldn't tell. So that was, or the beard. That one was an easy one to figure out. But man, please stop wearing them.
Chris Cuthbert and Ray Ferraro were even saying like it was. They were saying on Twitter, it's like they didn't say anything, but they wanted to because it was they're just for commentary's sake. You couldn't tell. Like for example, the Nylander goal, right? I think it was like Tavares' hard work. How in the hell the Oilers let that go through is beyond me. I didn't know it was William until I saw his face and his hair. I'm like, it's him. All right, there you go.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was really, really bad. I'll tell you another one that's really good though, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Take it away because I know you want to say it.
No, I'm gonna stick to the Leafs and Oilers first because I had some funny comments about those ones. So there's a guy named Dylan that he was in the program last year, and he's like, I didn't know until midway through the Oilers were wearing the retro reverse jerseys because he's like, there's really like not a lot of like changes to them from like what they've seen before with original jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one was Gordon Miller's tweet about like whose idea was it to put blue numbers on a blue jersey?
Yeah.
And he's like just saying this, you know, for the help of a colleague who's commentating a game.
Yes.
That it is really difficult for commentators to kind of really justify who has the puck.
Can I be honest? I think we made better jerseys in NHL 21.
I don't know about that.
Our Seattle Kraken jerseys were on point.
I admit I like the Leaf logo, like the logo itself.
It's too big.
Is beautiful to me, but like everything else is just okay. Another thing too, when they were promoting that and they're like, oh, remember to get your jersey at Real Sports. Do you remember when they had the green smiley face on the side of the Do you remember that?
No.
So there was a green smiley face that the Leafs put there, and then people were like, was that like an edit you forgot to take out? And then apparently no, it's part of the promo because James Myrtle also commented, is like, what's with the green smiley face? And apparently it's a reference to Marner and Matthews.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you guys like let me know. I'm like, is there like a weird reference I'm missing here?
I don't understand. Do we not remember why he put the smiley face on his glove?
Wasn't it a mental health thing?
It stemmed from the whole Babcock. I'm pretty sure it had to do with the
Yeah.
Babcock thing.
It was like a reminder to himself to have fun, wasn't it?
Okay.
That's.
Yeah,
Were you
maybe
guys
that's
having
what it
fun
is,
last night?
okay.
I was fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
If
I
you
don't
saw
think
Hab's
Adam
Twitter,
was.
you know I did not have a good night. Well, we're at a crossroads here. We'll start with the Dukes. Why did I say it like that?
Dukes.
The Ducks. Not a great night last night for the Anaheim Ducks. John Gibson gets pulled.
Well,
Daniel,
he pulls himself.
He pulls. I was about to say, Daniel, can you describe it to us when you first joined our Zoom call before we started recording? Can you just explain to us how John Gibson took himself out the game last night?
Yeah, so he lets in 3 goals with less than 3 minutes into the game, and he literally just goes to the bench. And I mentioned Eric Stevens of The Athletic said, I did not really see if there was a call from head coach Dallas Eakins to indicate that he's going with Ryan Miller. John Gibson, apparently out of frustration for this team, went to the bench on his own admission.
I'm just like quickly going through the highlights now to try and find it. And it's just like they let Zach Sanford just walk in. I mean, this Ducks team, like I'm looking at it, it's 2-0, 5-0 other shots about 3 minutes into the game so far. Sorry, about 2 minutes into the game. There's a comparison I think you threw on the doc, Daniel, about the Ducks and their play. And it is an issue that you raised that you thought the Ducks were going to look like before the season.
Yeah. And
that's your cue. Go.
Yes. The way I kind of see it is that yesterday it really exploded in a way because, John Gibson has kept them in there. Like the day before they lost by 1 goal against the Coyotes. And then it's crazy. John Gibson has 2 shutouts already this year, and they're both 1-0 games.
That's J.S. Jaguar like right there.
Like what I'm kind of seeing with this team is, and I've compared it on the doc, is the 2002 Habs or the 2014 Devils, where we remember Jose Theodore, he wins the Hart, he wins the Vezina for that, that Montreal team that, squeezes into the 8th place spot. And then I see the Devils who, I think that was the year they had like 12 overtime losses or something. They just were 0 for 11 in the shootout. But that was the year that Corey Schneider became the starter full time, and they just could not score for him. And he had an insane save percentage, and he played like more than 70 games. And I'm seeing the same thing now with the Ducks, is that they could still play that style everyone knows them for, but they just can't score. They don't have any more scores. They don't have any of the young guys kind of really stepping up, where, they've been playing solid 2-way games, but just they're not getting the shots.
I finally got to look at all of them. Talk about letting your goalie out to dry, by the way. Like one was a Kyrou break. Kyrou somehow gets an open lane in the slot after completely embarrassing Cam Fowler. One was a breakaway, bar down. The second one, again, Zach Sanford gets his own rebound in front of him after beating like 3 Ducks to get to the front. I feel so bad for John Gibson. This is just, you can just see the look in his eyes. Like, what am I supposed to do? I think his save percentage was at like 960 the other day, was it not?
Yeah.
There's no way he's not frustrated. Like, this has to be, because like, how old is he? He's still relatively young. Like, he's 28, around there at least.
26, turning 27.
Oh my God. Like, he's still young. Like, he's kind of, I guess, entering his goalie prime, because goalies are odd, and you're kind of now being pushed, not really put, you're in the middle of a rebuild.
He is 27, by the way.
Oh, wait.
Like, he's in the middle of a rebuild. This has to be frustrating. And I think Anaheim might be closer than some think, but I think a lot has to go right for them to be closer, because it's one thing to draft the prospects. And I think you look at the cabinet that they have, I think it's quite filled, and it's quite filled well. It's another thing to develop those prospects. And I think that's Anaheim's goal, because, look at, Comtois, Zegras, these other guys, Lundestrom, these guys that they're playing, Drysdale, like, you have to develop them well. And I mean, I don't see why they can't, but that's just, I think, their next step. Has Zegras played at all this year?
I don't know. He hasn't played like yet.
Because I know, like, he should. Like, if this is the case, and if they're in
try
this situation, at least try it. Like, I'm not, like, obviously don't play him. Like, don't just throw him into the top 6. Like, that's not a great idea necessarily. But at least throw him out there a little bit and see what he can do now. What's the worst case that happens? You play him a couple games and it doesn't turn out well. Okay, well, the AHL's supposed to start soon. That's where you're going to play this season.
Yeah. I just one final point we move on about this is that in a way, because the Ducks they're a very young franchise. They've actually never had to go through a full-scale rebuild in a way, because when they lost Paul Correa, that was when they made the finals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they built their way back up through free agency, and then they got Getzlaf and Perry so late in the first round. So they never actually had to have these moments where they just throw a young team out there because, Getzlaf and Perry had Scott Niedermayer and like Timo Solane and like Chris Pronger to help them along the way. And then the guys that like Cam Fowler, like Josh Manson, they had Getzlaf and Perry in their prime to help them along the way as well. And then John Gibson didn't have to be rushed at all because they had Jonas Hiller, Victor Fast, Frederick Anderson. And then this is just like a whole new thing that like I think that they've never actually had to deal with before.
Mm-hmm. By the way, John Gibson is 3-3-2. It says 2 ties. I'm thinking that's supposed to mean overtime losses. 2 of those wins, as you pointed out, were shutouts. He's a .931 save percentage. Boy.
Can we just give him the Vezina even though they won't make the playoffs?
Maybe.
If he keeps these numbers.
If he keeps it above 910, then definitely. If he can do that. That's like league average now. Like, how the hell did he have a higher save percentage than Bobrovsky last year on that team? About at 904, 907. Okay. Okay, so we have the Leafs and we have the Habs, and combined we have with that the Oilers and the Flames. So the 2 big Eastern teams and the Albertan, clearly lesser teams to go. I'm kidding, obviously. Where do you guys want to start first?
I think we started with Toronto last time, so why don't we start with Montreal?
Perfect. The Canadians have 2 sets of games. Not 2 sets. That doesn't make sense. 2 games with the Calgary Flames. They split those 1-1. Montreal's first regulation loss of the season. And I talk about Calgary's problem not having goalies. Jacob Markstrom fixed that. Oh boy, there was a point in the second period where Montreal shot attempts were like 19-5, and they were just skating circles around the Flames. But focusing on them, they came out, had a really, really strong first period, as you knew they were going to after they had that player-only meeting, which is having it this early in the season. Of course, they've played less games than the other Canadian teams because they got like that 5-day break. Johnny Gaudreau gets on the board early in the game with a power play goal. He's been hot as well. Despite the Bennett stuff, Calgary, after I think they actually snap a 3-game losing streak as well in that. Wondering if you guys have a thought on Calgary so far and just how important Jacob Markstrom is and is probably going to continue to be for that team.
I think Markstrom is their most important acquisition from the summer. I think that what was the one thing that we always talked about with Calgary? It was, their goaltending wasn't consistent, and then obviously their star players couldn't perform in the playoffs. Now, we can't get to that second one until the playoffs, if they make the playoffs. But I think the first one has been addressed extremely well.
Yes.
Like, he was the best goalie on the market. Obviously, because Leonard didn't hit free agency, but Markstrom was the best goalie to hit the market, and I think it might be like, I don't even know like where else that team could have gone. Like, this was the acquisition they had to make. It was the acquisition they had to make, and they did it.
Dan.
Yeah, I kind of agree too. That is there were two things we mentioned that the Flames had to fix, and that number one thing was their goaltending. That for years they put in Brian Elliott, David Riddick, Mike Smith, Chad Johnson in there to just absorb the starts to try to get something out of them. What I've said before, they signed these guys to try to make them play above what they've shown already. And it just was never the case for them, where they always had these odd tandems that I never really viewed them as, legitimate tandems. And Jakob Markstrom has become a world-class goalie. He is someone that we've talked about that, he was a bit of a late bloomer, I think, into being arguably elite right now. And that was a big thing for them. But the other thing we talked about, and I think that they've been able to do this, is the guys they paid to be their focal points are elevating their games again. That we're seeing what we said, the traditional Johnny Gaudreau. We're seeing, the Elias Lindholm. We're seeing the Sean Monahan. These guys that have just been, to be honest, like they were disappointments the last 2 years. And as much as that, we don't really like him in the city, but Matthew Tkachuk, he's playing his game. He's being what he kind of needs to be. And what I like
guy
too
who
is,
takes penalties.
yeah, but also like even on the back end of things, that they had so many quality names there that I kind of felt that they didn't play to their potential. It's not just Mark Giordano and friends anymore. Because like Giordano's, I feel this year's taking a bit of a step back, especially given his age. But we're seeing the Rasmus Anderson. We're seeing, if not the top two guy he was supposed to be, we're seeing at least a stable Noah Hannafin. We're seeing the leadership Chris Tanev's given to this team, and then they have that bottom six that for years have been solid, that they just keep adding to it.
Stabling presence on the back end and a good goalie sounds like something Vancouver could really use right about now. Isn't that really, really funny? By the way, some news I thought I just mentioned. This is from Jonathan Bernier. Good news for Josh Anderson. He tested negative for COVID again. And apparently it seems to believe that his symptoms are attributed to something he ate. So he had
That's
food
good.
poisoning.
I was watching that one closely.
Not the Jonathan Bernier who plays for the Detroit.
Not
Red
that, John.
Wings.
No.
Just wanted to make sure.
Former friend of the, he is a friend of the show, but he's a former Leaf legend, Jonathan Bernier.
Whoever said he was a friend of the show? When did we start handing this title out?
No. I mean, okay, he played for the Leafs. He played for the Leafs, and he was a real junior goalie.
I do not remember handing that title out to Jonathan Bernier.
And anyway, no, this is Jonathan Bernier from the Montreal Journal.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Yes, you can.
About Jonathan Bernier.
Okay,
so remember when Nordstrom opened in Eden Center? This was like a year before we started at Ryerson.
Maybe.
And he did ads for them because he's like really into fashion.
Yes.
So a month after he was traded,
yes,
there were ads everywhere around the city for Nordstrom, for Jonathan Bernier, like, "Oh, come to our new Eden Center." And then they didn't fix it where the bottom it said Maple Leafs goaltender Jonathan Bernier.
I remember that. I remember. That's funny. That's quite a story.
But going back to the actual Jonathan Bernier we're mentioning here, honestly, that's a great thing, because when I was reading all of that about Josh Anderson, I was a bit worried, because
what was I too?
I was thinking the worst, like, because I've seen this in the NBA so many times already. You're like, are they gonna start postponing games for the Montreal Canadiens? Are they gonna have to see like, okay, we got to test everybody, we got to push everything back, and then it's become like a whole mess of things, because now the NBA is dealing with, all right, we have to like find time now to play these catch-up games.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina's division.
Yeah, Dallas Stars.
Yeah, there's been nothing there. But yeah, it was weird because all of a sudden Montreal just announced that he was done for the night. I was like, what happened? There was no sort of big hit, didn't fall over or anything. It was like, what happened here? Yeah. It was just, he probably ate a bad hot dog or something. I don't know.
I don't know if he's eating hot dogs, but maybe on game day. On
was
game
it the pizza?
Day,
Michael Jordan, the flu game?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a lot of anger last night.
Oh, really?
For Adam?
It was just because it's just, you know the feeling when you get goalied by someone else. You start looking at just all the, when you have the chance to get an opportunity on an odd man rush or a power play, it becomes that much more frustrating, especially when your standards are high for your team, like Habs fans are with this current squad and how well they've started the season. And I'm just so worried. And that La Presse article about Danault turning that deal down, he's losing money every time he steps in the offensive zone because he has been probably the most disappointing Canadian to start the season. And like Paul Byron hasn't scored. He's been looking great. Like we all forget he was a Flame, like best waiver pickup of all time you can talk about. And he was, he was sparking the team. There's a reason Paul Byron has an A. People kind of forget that. But
I actually forgot that.
Kulak's 6th defenseman. Like, you don't get too mad about that. But Danault had at least 2 looks last night that I can remember. One was straight into the glove of Jacob Markstrom. And it wasn't like, oh my God, he got it. It was just like that.
Oh,
just caught it, like right into the glove, right? The other was a goddamn 3-on-1. And if you have an odd man rush, like it's not as bad as Pittsburgh having like a 2-3-on-0 and missing the net. Like it's not that bad.
That was horrible.
But Danault on a 3-on-1 misses the net. Like by a sizable amount. And you just think, oh no. I think he's still trending on Twitter.
I have a question for you, Adam.
Yep.
So worst comes to worst, if Danault doesn't sign that extension and, he kind of goes to the open market and knowing that he rejected that, very generous offer and term, what's going to be worse to you? Is it going to be the Danault thing or the Anthony Duclair situation?
Wait, as in like
in terms of analyzing it, like of the extension was there, you just had to sign it.
It could look, I mean, again, there's a lot of hockey to be played, like just under 50 games. I mean, and it's going to go by quickly. It is. It's going to be worse because it's a lot more money. It's a lot, I would say, a much like a higher profile player. And again, it was something with term. And Duclair went on 31 Thoughts and denied that he had gotten that 3x3 deal. He kind of joked, trust me, if I had gotten that, I would have signed it. I think Danault would be a lot worse because, again, the $25 million in this scenario, you're a centerman, so you could always get the more amount of money. You're a two-way stud. That means something. I don't think Duclair is even close to that sort of situation. I mean, guy still got $1 million. What was his Panthers deal? Like 1.1 or something? Still got money out of it.
Yeah.
Like, Danault is at worst going to get, if he goes to the open market and gets like $4 million per year, I wouldn't be surprised. Is he going to get the term? I don't know, but I think it would definitely be worse.
He's 27 now, right?
I believe so, yeah.
1.7 for Duclair.
$1.7 million is nothing to scoff at. What doesn't help Danault's situation even more here is he's not getting as much penalty kill time. It's been Evans and Suzuki.
Right.
And it helps when Jake Evans is getting all these shorthanded goals, by the way. As a rookie, his first full rookie season is stealing Phil Danault's job. Remind you of the playoffs, anyone. And Nick Suzuki is like, he's the first line center. He is. It's incredible. So he's just losing his leverage and anything he has more and more now. And I hate to see it. Like I like Danault. I do. I like a hometown player who's coveted position, one they've needed for years. It's $25 million. Why'd you not sign that? If you wanted like 5.7 or 5.8 is the rumor? Dude, what are you thinking? You can have a burger named after you here. Dude, honestly.
I'm going to say a poutine, but
Good shout.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
The Danault poutine. I don't know what's in it, but that's okay. I'll
It's
still
safe,
take it.
but it's not spicy because you'll savor it, but it won't give you a kick.
I do like my spicy.
Some joke about not having an offensive ability.
It's solid. It'll,
Solid.
It's damn good, but
We're not saying that poutine is just good. Poutine is amazing, but
no, but this poutine in particular, it's
Yes,
damn
but this-
good, but
this, we all like
it's
the
missing
poutine,
something.
But the poutine is trying to reach above what it is. It's like a McDonald's poutine trying to go from like a nice local restaurant.
It's like this poutine's really worth like $5, but they're charging us $6 for it.
I remember working at McDonald's and having to make that poutine. It was so annoying. Because it's like it's out of the McDonald's rhythm.
Because it's just because you first of all think I'm assuming their fries are obviously frozen. I'm guessing. Well, most of
Yeah,
them
they're
are.
frozen. Yeah.
I'm assuming the gravy.
Spill the secrets, Daniel. Spill the secrets.
I'm guessing the gravy is just probably some block that they throw into like a hot pan and it just slowly melts and you gotta stir it. every
Oh,
once
it's a
in while.
powder. It's a powder.
It's a powder. Okay.
Yeah.
So you probably just get a big pot of water or something and you throw it in. And then I like the cheese. I'm guessing is just like I don't even want to think.
It's for the fridge. It's for the fridge. It's like the cheese curds, like an individual cheese packages.
So at least it's curds. Like it's not just. What other stuff does McDonald's even have with cheese? So it's obviously the bird, but it's not like you can't obviously use like the sliced whatever cheese from some pit that McDonald's uses. I can just imagine it's.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Why were the ice cream machines always broken?
I love flurries.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't know either, to be honest, because working there I think it's just the frequency of how often it was used. Like, you know what I mean? Like the fryer, you'll finish the fries. This is such a random conversation.
It's okay. It's okay.
We'll finish the fries and then like it's off, right? But McDonald's, like especially in the summer, it's the machine that keeps on going. So there's no, I guess, break for it. So like it just kind of keeps going on.
Oh, fix it. It's been done for years.
These sound like excuses.
This is nothing new.
Yeah, I don't know. Like even working there too was a mystery to me. I'm like, why is this always broken?
Daniel, you know what this is starting to sound a lot like? People going on CNBC and saying the people on Reddit are bad. Okay, I feel like you have this inside connection with McDonald's, and you're just saying, you know what? I don't know. Coming up with excuses here.
Yeah, I wasn't high enough to really know what the inside answers were.
So you want something to be consistent like the ice cream machine, but it's incredibly inconsistent. Kind of like the NHL enforcing hits to the head.
There we go.
I'm proud of that one.
That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Okay, so last night there was a little play behind the net where Jesperi Konecny turns around into a hit from Dylan Dubé, who got into the lineup last night. Great for him. He didn't hit him with his shoulder. He had his arms up and gets Konecny right in the head. No call on the ice. The ref is right there. Like, perfect view of it. Really, like, great. Fantastic. The head goes back, by the way. This isn't just like, oh, I'm down. Like, snap back. Like, was that head.
It was like Mortal Kombat-esque.
Yeah.
Not that bad.
It was close. It was getting
bad.
there.
Konecny didn't play the last 7 minutes of the second. Came back eventually for the third because concussion protocol, obviously.
Yeah.
Weber got a penalty for roughing afterwards because, his rookie just got down. So don't give me this crap and veterans get the extra step because a rookie just got headshot. And now we look to see if player safety will do anything about this. Of course, there was nothing with Tyler Myers. The players had to enforce themselves with Joel Edmondson fight. Fantastic. That did so much. Another Finn, another important part of the Montreal's team, gets headshot. And listen, we can talk about turning. This is kind of like when Gallagher got his jaw broken against the Flyers. And it was like, because, he turned, it was supposed to be a cross check and Gallagher turned around. If Gallagher was facing the other way, it wouldn't have been to his jaw. It would have been to the back of his head. Same scenario. Dubé had his freaking hands up when he gave the hit.
Yeah. He pushed off of it, yeah.
Yes.
I'll help you out here. The Canadian press. We all know the Canadian press.
And their style.
This is what was in their article after the game. Quote, this is a quote. Dubé's forearm launched into Kotkaniemi's head.
Where, in what world? Like, seriously. Do you not look at this again? I'm pretty Gary Goalie on the broadcast. First game of the season, I've heard it. Like, I tuned into the game and I'm like, oh my God, like, it's John Bartlett. I get a John Bartlett game. Yes. But then you hear Gary Goalie and you hear him call Tyler Toffoli Michael Ryder all night. Michael Ryder hasn't been a Habs since 2013. And he's like losing it over how great this hit is. Brian Burke says there's nothing wrong with it because, of course,
Calgary.
I was just
I
saying
don't know if
player
it's
safety
Calgary,
is old
though.
fashioned. But Calgary, I mean, why not? Did he draft Dubé?
I think he was part of the management team.
Anyway, but
That was 2016, right?
I don't remember. You would know better than I would.
Dubé was the real junior captain in 2017.
Yes. So here's what I'm kind of thinking here.
Yeah.
The IIHF, anytime there is head contact, they do the right thing and they suspend it. This isn't player discipline, okay? Or what did Brian Burke say the department used to be called when he ran?
I don't know. I'll find out. I'm actually looking him up right now.
Okay, because it's currently called player safety. It's player safety. This is the issue here. Forget about if it's a good hit or not. Yeah, the refs messed up. That should have been a penalty. That's an illegal check to the head. That's at least 2 minutes. Hits to the head are not safe. If there is nothing on this, if this is not at least a one gamer, because Dubé doesn't have a history, and Casikama Pascal was sort of breaking down this idea of what Peros kind of gives as his criteria. Apparently, there needs to be at least 50% head contact.
There was like
I'm like-
100%.
And you're thinking, like, first of all, how dumb is that? Like, it goes against the name of the department. You're supposed to keep players safe. And if there is nothing for this, we already have such a thing against player safety because they are just... George Peros is not... Like, let's be honest. Fighting in hockey is not safe. He's not the right guy to run this. I'm saying this before any verdict because I'm just so not confident. And so much of this has gone under the radar. Like, it's so simple. It was a hit to the goddamn head. He was bleeding. He left the game for a bit.
Even if you want to make the argument that it wasn't the head, it was bare minimum the neck. Bare minimum. Like, even if he was, let's say Konecny was turned around. Like, let's say his back was hit, like, because Dubé was going in, and that's right. And then Konecny kind of turned. Even if he was still turned around, he still would have got him bare minimum the neck.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do you know what's like here? Like, I'm touching my neck and the back of my neck. Like, I'm pretty sure there's important things. Right?
Neck, spine, pretty important stuff.
Like, pretty important stuff. Like, I don't know what the...
I just don't know what's like the whole deal with Montreal Finnish players getting targeted.
I don't know, Daniel, but I would love to know myself. I'd love to know that, like, thank God there's some depth on this tape. Like, thank God.
Like, what was he bent over? Like, because the argument is, he's like, he was, okay, sure, he was bent over a little bit.
They were fighting for a puck.
Like, he was bent over a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
this
he
much.
was- he
like,
was
this
over.
much. This
Yeah.
much.
That's
So?
still, and it doesn't explain why Dubé is using
He was-
forearms.
But he was bent over the entire time. It's not like he went from this and then as, like, Dubé was coming and he was still bent over.
I'm a little annoyed that I can't find the hit in the highlights of the game because that's typical. Do you guys see that the Flames said that he tweeted out, like, attaboy Dubé, and they deleted it right away?
I know.
I didn't see that, but that's pretty
like
gutsy.
So this is what I get. I don't know where he said it. I turned off the TV after the Leafs game, so he might have said it in between Winnipeg and the Winnipeg game and these two games. Apparently, he said, "I think it's a clean hit. You can't blow a guy up without making some contact with his head." I think that is the stupidest thing
yeah.
ever.
The thing is, it wasn't like it wasn't like a full on check. It looked like, like it wasn't a full on hit in a way. It was kind of like the arms outreached.
I think there's a major difference between a blatant head hit and blowing a guy up. I think there's a huge difference. 100%. Like, you're not gonna change my mind on that one.
And it's not like he had the momentum there. They were fighting for the puck.
Like, here's the thing, and it's not just in sports. I think this is a thing that happens everywhere. It's not one side or the other. There's this amazing thing called middle ground. So it's not, yeah, we want blatant head hits and we want absolute murder on the ice, or we want no hitting in the NHL. That's by far one of the dumbest arguments I have ever heard in my life. Ever. It makes zero sense to me how it's one side or the other. There's middle ground. There's literal middle ground that we're going to take out head hits. I never want to hear if this is the second time it goes unpunished. I don't ever want to hear the NHL ever talk about concussions again, ever. I don't want to hear the NHL talk about it. The PA can talk about it. I don't ever want to hear the NHL as a league talk about them caring about concussions, ever. Because this goes against everything. It goes against everything. You cannot sit here and tell me that them talking about saying, the concussions this and concussions that, you don't care, because hitting someone in the head can give someone a concussion, like purposefully. If you get hit, let's say this. Someone body checks someone, you hit your head against the ice. It happens all the time. Mm-hmm. That's different. That is a completely different situation. It's not, oh, he hit his head on the ice after a hit, so you should be suspended. No, it's when your forearm or when you literally your shoulder, your elbow, whatever goes into the guy's head, when it is the primary target.
Listen, you got it right really, really well there. Like, in what world do you normally see a hit like that? Like your arms going out. That's not how it works. Elbowing is a penalty. Like, even if he was just going for his back, that was almost boarding too. It was so dumb.
And there's no height. I know they mentioned the Tyler Myers, like, oh, that's a big boy hit on like a smaller player. Like Konecny is a big guy.
It's like 6'3".
He's a tick man, as they say.
I just listen. There has to be something here. Like, again, you can see the discipline side and the intention of Dubé there. You can debate that all you want. If we're talking about intention, then I'll try and hear you out about a tall player being bent over and turning. Like, oh, I get that. Like, whatever. We can have the intentional debate, whatever. But the simple fact here is that they have to enforce hits to the head because, again, one more time, the Department of Player Safety is what I feel like a lot of people are missing, by the way. That, like Brian Burke, who we love, but dude. Okay, that's everything on the Montreal front.
It's not MMA. Like, I don't understand. Like, in MMA, sorry, I'm so sorry, but just let me get this out. I'm sorry. Like, I think I've said this so many times on the podcast. I hate having to repeat it, but in MMA, the goal is to literally beat the crap out of somebody. Mm-hmm. Like, they're signing up when Conor McGregor, when whoever signs up to go into a fight, they are willingly walking in there to get hit in the head. Mm-hmm. When John Tavares, when Jonathan Drouin, when Victor Mete, when whoever signs their contract, there's nowhere in there that says you might get hit in the head. Mm-hmm. If anything, like other leagues, like the NFL has done something about head hits, right? Like the head-to-head hit, like the helmet-to-helmet hit. They've realized that was bad. They implemented something about it. Mm-hmm. So why are we so far behind? What is it? What is it with this league in being so far behind in literally everything? Don't ever ask the question why you are dead last in the Big Four. Never. I don't want to hear it anymore because it's damn obvious now. Mm-hmm.
In lighter news.
Sorry.
Because one thing I didn't miss about the summer is talking about player safety. Because man, they're so inconsistent. They're like Alexander Albon last year.
Oh, it is.
little F1 reference for you there, lads. Okay. Last night we got a game that we expect the Oilers and the Leafs to have, and that is every time we look up from our whatevers, we see a goal being scored. I'll tell you this. So I've got Bell 5. I have a receiver and my 2 controllers, but the receiver just has the power button. It doesn't have like a channel swap or anything on it, right? Both my Bell 5 controllers stopped working. So, and it just happened that the channel, it was almost the Leafs game. So I'm like, okay, great. I have to watch the Montreal Canadiens on my thingy, being distracted because, the Leafs game's going on. But every time I looked up, it was like, oh, a goal. It's quite nice.
Yeah.
And it was like, again, that Nylander goal, how in the world?
Did we know it was him?
The Matthews goal, I had no idea how that went in.
Every goal was like, what is happening? Like the Anderson, so not the Anderson, like the Archibald stuff. Like, how do you get a chance like that right at the end? Like the McDavid pass to, God, who was it? The wicked McDavid, that was to Archibald too, right? The wicked McDavid pass to the front of the net. Who was that? But there was disappointments like Ennis having a terrible power penalty shot too.
Yeah.
But,
I didn't realize that was a penalty shot. That was embarrassing.
Yeah, at first I was like, oh, okay.
So bad. That was as bad as like, remember that game when it was one of the play-in rounds between Montreal and Pittsburgh, and Drouin and I can't remember which Pittsburgh player, they both had penalty shots and they both missed. And it was like, you son, how... God damn it. There's nothing worse than like that's going to be on Dang It's for sure. But like, let's start talking about the goaltending controversy and how one doesn't exist.
There's
Again,
no goaltending controversy.
For what Frederick Anderson pulled out against Archibald for that last few seconds of the game. Like, my cat, like he saved 2 points right there. Like ultimately got one, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like he was I think now, okay. There is no, let me start with, there is zero goaltending controversy in this city. And I know exactly what it is. It's just people overreacting, and I guess it's okay because it's sports. People overreact.
Mm-hmm.
But let's set the record straight here. There is no goaltending controversy. Like Frederick Anderson is the starter. I don't think when Jack Campbell comes back, it's gonna magically change.
Whoa. I'm going to talk about Jack Campbell.
No, we're not talking about Michael Hutchinson. I don't think he's going to play a game. I really don't. How
many more back-to-backs do they have coming up?
The next one isn't for a couple weeks, I think. It's Ottawa on the 17th and 18th of February.
Just play Freddie back-to-back.
I mean, who knows? Maybe Hutchinson will have to play. Who knows? I think walking into this season, there was a lot of talk with Freddie because there were rumors that the Leafs were getting calls about him. I mean, I was pretty much confirmed. And, he is on the last year of his contract. That is true. Do I think he's going to get re-signed? Probably not, highly unlikely. But we've had issues with Freddie in the past with the way he's performed in the playoffs. But let's remember who was in front of him. Garbage.
The defense.
Sorry. Yes, the defense. I should be a little more clear. I think that the defense he has in front of him this year is the best defense he's had in front of him since his Anaheim days. Because the first year he got here, it was Zaitsev. I think it was Zaitsev. Zaitsev might not have been there yet. Either way, it's been other than Riley.
Oh no, it was Zaitsev because it was he came in when they came back to the playoffs. So Zaitsev.
Right. So it was like Zaitsev, Hainsey, Marinson, Matt Hunwick, listen to the name. Yeah, Roman Polak for years.
Connor Carrick.
It was Connor Carrick who wasn't playing. But you know what I mean? I think this year's defense is a lot different than what he's had in the past. It's a little more, I think the word we'll go with is stable.
I think that's a very good point.
More responsible.
Yeah, more responsible. And I think in the past that's created, it's put a lot of pressure on Freddie because he's had to take more shots, and there have been a lot more high danger chances because the defense have given up these high danger chances.
Mhm.
And this year, when you have a more stable and more reliable defensive core, you don't necessarily have to do that. The real test, I think, for Leaf fans with Freddie is going to be the playoffs. It's not going to be the regular season because he's always had a weird regular season, a slower start, and then just a buildup because he's one of those guys who like playing a lot of games.
Mhm.
And I mean, he's not going to play the same amount of games he would as a regular season in a regular season, but he's still going to play the most games for this team.
Mhm.
So there's no goaltending controversy.
Mhm.
Sorry, it just sounds like The Last Dance. Like, you know, the intro
No, what did
where
they
it's like
say?
there's no backstabbing here, and then like they say it like 5 times.
Mhm. And then then you see Michael Jordan just taking all the shots at the GM on the bus, and you're like, yeah, sure.
But no, I agree. Like, I think Freddie is still going to be their guy.
I disagree.
Contract wise, I'm not sure how the market's going to go, but I think that he played great. It's just, it's like what we said before. But Connor McDavid is a cheat code.
Oh, baby.
Oh, both goals.
Hold this thought on that. We're talking about that in a second.
In a second or now?
In a sec. Sorry, I thought Daniel was still going.
Oh yeah, but I love Freddie. I'm always gonna love him, but
Yep.
He had a good game despite the overtime loss.
Again, the save on Archibald is enough for me. I'm like, man, he can only have so many boring games against the Oilers. Like, at some point, we're gonna have a shootout here.
I'm just gonna crack open.
It was Curtis McElhinney, like.
That is very true. What a weird fish he is. McDavid, though,
Stanley Cup champion, Curtis McElhinney.
Oh, they're so freaking good. McDavid, like, the Academy goes nervous when he goes 1-on-3 on 1-4, just because like the first time he ever did it, he broke his collarbone and missed a season or half a season.
That's true.
Or he does what he does last night, and like I had looked up as it happened. Like it was one of the times when I looked up and I went, oh. I think even that was not me stuttering. That was me I almost threw up because of how disgusting the goal was. Like I remember, like obviously the group chat was going, and I didn't want to say anything because first of all, Mike was behind the streams that we were watching, or he was streaming it, or maybe no, he wasn't streaming. He was probably watching it legally, and it was just behind us.
He said he was watching it with his parents.
Anyway, so I was waiting for Alex to be the first one to send it, or Mike. And Alex took a while to respond. I'm like, what's going on here? And he just said, I needed to take a second. Because here's the thing. The last time that I believe, Alex, you went to a game
that was the last
McDavid
game.
Just ending Morgan Riley. This is when the kind of game when you realize, yeah, you know what? No, McKinnon's not the best. No, he's not. No, it's Connor. Holy crap.
Like more than once in that game did Connor McDavid go through the entire team.
I just get him a supporting cast. Please. This isn't like me crapping on the Oilers. It's just like at this point I'm begging them. Get him some help. Please.
If he leaves, let's just remember they asked for this. Mm-hmm. They asked for this.
I mean, we've talked about before, like, they have the draft picks. It's just these guys are not coming for a while. Raphael Lavoie is not coming for a while.
Man, you need to develop stuff first.
Like,
I really thought Terrace was going to help them. No.
He stabilized it a bit. It's just like he's
here's the thing.
Moving the dial.
Here's the thing with the Oilers. They had 3 major issues: goaltending, defense, and forward depth. They addressed the last thing they should have addressed. What is the most important thing to the team? What's one of the most important things to a team? Sorry. Goaltending?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way,
that's been a bit of a wash.
Can I just say that I have a massive Friedman. I hate when Elliot Friedman makes sense because he's just so great. He went on. Like I was thinking, I was gonna come into the show today and be like, you know what? I love Koskinen. He's doing so. And then Friedman in his damn Christmas tree shirt suit just took all the thunder. You know, he said, you know what? A lot of respect to Koskinen because he's played every game. Because you know, I wonder like Stuart Skinner if he goes and it's going to be like when DiPietro got the emergency call up. I wonder if he goes in and the Oilers just because I don't trust them to be able to. It's kind of
shield this goalie.
One of the guys in Hockey Central made a really good point of when Reimer and Mrazek are hurt and the Carolina Hurricanes have whatever goalie in net and how
Alex Denokovic?
As I was saying, I'm like, gee, did I just mention the e-bug?
No.
But like of how good they are at actually boxing out opponents, and I'm like, it's not even just that the Oilers' depth lacks talent; it's just they seem to lack motivation. They won't
or coordination.
Anything. It's just there's not a lot of. I hate that. Remember when Claude Julien his last year in Boston was like, we don't have enough talent.
You know, that reminds me of like Adam Larson. He's one of the leaders in block shots, which is great, but it just
Like,
it's
congratulations.
it's like the little things to really connect with the other partners.
That's showing he gives a damn at least. Like this other or like Columbus buy in for Tortorella. They give it. They give the body on the line. I look at the Oilers and I'm like, yeah, Russell and Larson are crap contracts. They're not the ideal defensemen, but they're sacrificing the body. They're trying. But I look at so many
has
of
to
the
yell
Oilers.
more.
Okay, so then, so first off, two things. Number one, just to finish off that goalie thing, they're not even in on anybody. They're not even in on anybody. What is this? It's like they put a claim in on Dell. Obviously, they didn't get him, but you have Mikko Koskinen. Mike Smith is supposed to be your backup goalie, injured. You claim Troy Grosnick off waivers.
Who is
Jimmy?
that?
I don't from LA. I think.
Okay.
Jimmy Howard wouldn't even come. Like he retired.
I am retired.
Which, who for whatever reason, it's just funny to say he didn't want to come to Edmonton.
Yeah.
Markstrom didn't want to come to Edmonton. And now you're going to throw Stuart Skinner out to dry.
You remember when Dylan Ferguson played for the Golden Knights? And he was like a 7th round pick. Like
And
that
there you go
summer.
again. They bought in.
Was that their like fifth goalie?
Like they take like emergency, like what is it? Because he was playing
Emergency call up. He was playing in the W or O.
In the OHL, and they had to, like, they had like 5 goalies injured.
Was he the fourth one? Because it was Fleury.
Fifth.
I think you were about to do the. Okay, so remind me here. So it was Fleury, then Subban, Legacy,
Os-
and Gosse,
and Oscar Dansk.
And Oscar Dansk. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Dansk.
Okay.
Fleury could have won the Vezina that year. His stats were so good. He isn't playing enough. This is so dumb. The Oilers suck.
But okay.
What are their records?
Let's go. Like, I want to address something that you brought up, buying in. What do you do, like, if you're Ken Holland? Because the whole thing a couple of years ago when they fired Peter Chiarelli, that they had already fired Todd McClellan, brought in Ken Hitchcock for that season. Then they brought in Ken Holland, and now you have Dave Tippett after one like pretty good year, considering the Oilers had a pretty good year, would have made the playoffs in normal circumstances. Now it doesn't look like your guys are buying in, whether if they're buying in or not, or your team just doesn't look good. Like, what do you do if you're Ken Holland? Because I don't know how, like, what are you going to do? Go out? I mean, there's a good guy who's available, Gerard Gallant. Like, what do you do?
I don't know if you can. I like Tippett. I don't know why I like him. It's just what I think the Oilers have to capitalize on is they have to not bargain hunt, because I think they've tried to do that and it doesn't work, but the way that the market looks now and how just, you hope that guys like with Larson coming off the books, because he's not coming back. You've really gotta, because you can't, like, this is the worst year to make moves to try and fix your team. It's not going to happen. It's a miracle we've gotten as many trades as we have.
Do they have a choice?
It's that or you have to keep trying to work on your development, which, that takes a while. And the question is, does that come in? Do those players arrive in time? Because listen, one bad year with Connor at 18, 19 turns into 2, 3. I've lost 5 years. I'm already 23, 24. Math may have been a little off there. Whatever. You only
He's
need
24. No, you're right.
how long until he says,
I'm
I'm
done.
out?
Yeah.
It has to be a question.
It's a crime that we don't get to see him more.
I feel like this is like a weird cycle we're in because
Mhm.
we'll talk about how there's that pressure on two fronts that Dave Tippett was coming to be a stabilizing force because he managed to squeeze out what he got out of his systems. And, that was with Dallas, that was with Arizona. And I really thought it was going to kind of stick with them. And then the second thing is what we talked about is the other talent they kind of really have in the system that, yeah, they've been able to kind of stockpile things, but I think there's more of that pressure that, we really got to hit on these picks. And I don't think they have been. Like Philip Broberg, I don't really see it right now. He could prove me wrong. Evan Bouchard, I don't really see it. Rafael
Wait,
LeBlanc
just remind me who was drafted? Was it right after it or before?
is right after, yeah.
Who was drafted right after Broberg again?
Trevor Zegras.
That's a pretty good player. Sorry, go on. Yeah, I just thought I wanted to.
Yeah, but I think there's been that pressure, and they just haven't been able to kind of give that extra oomph outside of Draisaitl and McDavid.
Like, where's Eberle? Like, man, I hate the Oilers in so many ways.
And what are they? What can they actually do? Like that's the real question. Is okay, you got you got this money coming off the books. I mean, you're probably going to re-sign Nugent Hopkins. That's not a question.
Oh yeah.
Alex Chase on, like, I'm sorry, at 2.1. If that's what, like, you're welcome. Like, you should be thanking McDavid. Like, let's make that very clear.
He had one heater and got $1 million from it. Remember that where he had like a stretch when he just couldn't stop scoring, and they were like, here you go.
Adam Larson, Adam Larson probably not coming back.
Yeah, he needs to change the scenery.
Like,
that's gonna be another story once he's gone.
Right. Yeah, like Tyson. What do you do with Tyson Barrie? You still need another goalie. What?
Yeah.
Like, so you also, it's not like you can really, is the smartest move for you to make trades? Absolutely not. Please, like, your cupboards are okay in terms of prospects. I wouldn't necessarily do that. You're missing your second, third, and fifth this year, and you have your picks for the next 2 years after that, 2022 and 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Don't trade them unless you're bringing in significant pieces. Like, hypothetically, let's say the OEL deal worked, which would have done massive things for the team considering Clefbaum's not there. Then you give up picks, but don't just throw picks like what they did last year with Athanasiou. Here's 2 second-round picks, especially considering that you weren't able to bring him back.
I'm trying to think and I'm looking at to see if there's any goalies because with that talent, and hopefully Clefbaum comes back and he's great, and maybe you can handle it on to Barrie. And guys like Bear and that can continue to be really good, like Darnell Nurse too. If you can have a competent defensive core, a stud goalie, you can sort of buy time for those young guys to grow on the offensive side. But, and again, they could have done it on the offseason. It didn't even have to be Markstrom. It could have been anyone else. And they completely blew it.
And they didn't fix their D. I like I said this before, Tyson Barrie was a great addition to the team. I think he's a good player offensively.
Yes.
But my God, does he not look good defensively?
Mm-hmm.
Or how lucky were they with Ethan Bear?
Very.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I know we didn't know if Clefbaum was coming back. So what? You go out and sign a Clefbaum replacement for 1 year and not address one of the main issues on your team, that your team isn't very good defensively? Like you're Friedman's right. Mikko Koskinen's doing way more work than he has to.
He's not good enough, unfortunately.
Is he overpaid? Yes. Is he a bad goalie? No. But he's not necessarily this team starter, or he should be this. He should not be this team starter.
I think he would be perfect in Jake Allen's role. I think he would be a really, really good backup.
He honestly, he could be like a 1B. But the thing is, the way the Oilers are doing it, he is their 1A. He is their 1, even with Mike Smith healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what, you're telling me you're going to play Mike Smith 40 games? Really?
Yeah, it gets really worrying when you keep hearing goaltending and Mike Smith is mentioned. Anything else here to wrap up? Because we have been going very, very long. Starting with you, Dan.
Nothing really. I think that it's like an unending cycle of we analyze the Oilers, but at the same time, like we actually and it's the same thing as Ken Holland. I can't find a solution right now for this team.
Mm-hmm. It sucks to hear that when the best player in the world is slowly wilting away, like some overcooked spring onions, and you've thrown in too early in your egg fried rice. Alex, any closing thoughts?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to process what you just said.
Imagine trading the best player to the best player of his generation again.
Listen, I'm not saying it works out, but a sign and trade with Phil Deneau would be a fantastic experience. They need two-way players. They need guys. Leon could be the guy offensively. Phil doesn't have to fill that need. I'm just saying it makes a lot of sense.
But with
Fine, I'll throw in Victor Mete in a second. And a fifth.
I guess just to go back to Toronto, because I guess we kind of veered off that path for a little bit, rightfully so. One thing I wanted to point out is I really enjoyed. I like the way they played, especially not last night, but Thursday night, because they were able to come back from losing a lead.
Mm-hmm.
And that rarely happens with this team, especially over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, listen, they're playing Edmonton and Connor McDavid, and he's looked like an absolute beast. So I guess losing the lead wasn't necessarily the worst thing. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but coming back from the lead, and even last night coming back from being down 3-1 was impressive for this team and new strides.
Sorry, by the way, part of my chair broke.
Oh, good.
I thought it was
good.
your beaker that fell.
The seat just fell off too.
Oh,
so
okay.
you won't be using that chair anytime soon.
Nope. All right. Well, you know what they say, sitting is the new smoking.
Is that what they say?
Yeah, it is. I guess that's everything then.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for watching the episode today. I'm gonna try and readjust myself to do the outro here. We enjoyed doing this as always. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to it because it's fun. If you're listening to this on the YouTube or watching, even if you're not, go check out the video portion of the show for all the shenanigans that have gone on, like my chair breaking, me now doing the show on my knees in my kitchen. Be sure to check out Alex's blog. Be sure to check out Daniel's work for the Hockey Writers, a fantastic article about Minnesota, as well as all the stuff for the Eye Opener. Daniel, are you doing anything for the what is it, this sports thing that's coming out?
The sports issue?
Yes.
Yes, I've been in negotiation talks with Will Baldwin about a possible situation that, we could find ourselves in.
What's funny is I asked him to join our fantasy league. I don't have an answer, but he got me to start writing something for that as well.
So all right, awesome.
I'll be doing a thing about doing jerseys and that. Check out my YouTube channel. Yeah, not a lot of HFRs because life and school gets in the way, but I'm definitely doing one now. Beside that, 5-star reviews on iTunes. Because
you mean Apple Podcast?
Yeah, God, why did they change it? It's so dumb. Even though it feels like everything's under iTunes, you got to recover something from your iCloud. You got to go through iTunes. It makes no sense. Yeah, everything.
I think that's everything.
Thank you. The voice says always fantastic problem for the show. I always realize them when I'm like, "Is that it?" And I gotta. God, my knees are.
But we love you guys. We love Voice Ed.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's everything.
Thanks, guys.